At the time of this recording, Fracture is the newest map that has been added to Valorant, and I've been having a blast playing it so far. Since its release, I've been experimenting with Viper, and I've learned tons of different lineups and tricks that I want to share with you today. In this video, I will go over some different toxic screens that you can use for side executes, along with some Poison Cloud and Snakebite lineups to help you gain the upper hand in your rank games. Then, I will go over some ways to hold A site on defense, and a few useful retake lineups for B. Let's start with attacking A site from the Halls side. The most common wall that I find myself throwing for A is one that blocks up both the sand and A-link areas. To throw this wall, I stand in front of this keypad, usually pushed up to the spawn barrier. Then, looking up at my minimap, I line up the toxic screen preview line through this corner of the close wall, and just to the right of the exit from A-link. I like to use this indent as a point of reference, and I make sure the preview line is just to the right of this indent where the line starts to straighten out. Most of the time, I combo this toxic screen with one of two different poison clouds, but the one that I throw depends on where my teammates are positioned and what the plan for the round is. Usually, if I have a teammate pushing from the dish side, then I will place the orb in A tower. If instead, everyone is rushing from halls, then I place the orb to block the drop angle. When standing in the attacker's spawn, Viper can easily throw a poison orb that can block the dish drop area, making it much easier for your team to push out onto the site from halls. To throw this poison orb, come into this corner in the attacker's side spawn. Then, using your crosshair as a point of reference, look up at the wall in front of you and find the section where the sand ends. Place your crosshair to the left of this section, then jump and throw.
Poison orb emitting.
Another useful poison orb lineup you can use from the attacker side spawn is to block the A tower. To throw this poison orb, start by coming into this corner to the right of this see-through panel. Then, looking at your HUD, find this icon for the Viper's Pit ultimate ability. Using this icon as a point of reference, place the left side of this icon that sticks out into the top left corner of this gray panel on the wall, then throw. This lineup is super useful if your team is planning on pushing A site. Not only does it let your team fight for control of A sand easier to pinch the site from another angle, but it lets your teammates who have to push from drop have one less angle to worry about.
Poison's off.
If instead, you are approaching A site from the dish side, I would recommend placing a wall like this that cuts off both the A-link and sand angles. To throw this wall, walk up to the right of the entrance to the dish, pushed up against the spawn barrier before the round starts. Then, looking up at the minimap, place the toxic screen preview line so that it passes just to the left of the A-link exit and this box in A sand. It's important to realize that any defenders playing in A tower will be able to see you over the wall when you're approaching the drop, so I would recommend using the next lineup to place a poison orb in the tower to block that angle. When approaching A from the dish side, it's easy to place a poison orb that will block the A tower. To throw this poison orb, line up in the middle of this sand block wall. Then, using your crosshair as a point of reference, place it just to the right of this text on the wall, next to this triangle. Then, jump and throw.
Poison orb.
Not only does this orb combo nicely with the toxic screen, and make it much safer for your team to drop into the site, but it also allows your team to split from both A halls and sand, to pinch the site from both directions. After your team has control of the site, you have a few different options for spike plant locations. But because this is a beginner's guide, I only want to cover the two most popular plant spots. In my opinion, the two most popular spots would be this spot in front of these spammable boxes if you have full control of the site and are safe and have enough time to get away, or this spot behind the cover if you do not feel safe or don't have enough time. This open plant spot is ideal because not only can you hold a nice angle from A halls, but your teammates have good post plant options from many different angles as well, making the site that much easier to hold. If the spike is planted open, then I start by walking into this corner in the spawn by these three small boxes. Then, looking at my HUD, I find the icon for the Snakebite ability. Using this icon as a point of reference, I place it all the way to the left of this writing on the sign so that the left side of the icon touches the left side of the writing. Then I throw. If the spike is planted closed, then you can still throw a Snakebite from the same spot. Start by looking at the right side of this wall, and finding the top right corner of the sand on the wall. Now, looking at my HUD, I find the green bar underneath Viper's ultimate icon. Using the right side corner of this green bar as a point of reference, I move it down the edge of this sand until it starts to curve inward. Then I throw. If instead, you're playing post plant from inside of A halls, then you have access to a few Snakebite lineups through the crack in this window. This post plant location also puts you in a good position to watch the flank from the spawn and the push from sand through the sliding door. If the spike is planted open, then line yourself up with this thin line on the wall, to the right of this door. Using your crosshair as a point of reference, line it up with the crack in this glass, in the middle of these two bumps. Looking at your HUD, find this target symbol, and move it directly down until the target comes just below the middle of this gray bar in the ceiling like this. Then, jump and throw. If instead, the spike is planted closed, line up with the same thin line on the wall. Then, looking at your HUD, find the right side of this green bar that runs under the toxic screen icon, and place it just under this thin line on the ceiling. Now, find this tiny white line on the HUD that is in between the toxic screen and Viper's pit icons. Move straight down until this white bar touches just the inside of the gray section of the ceiling. Then, jump and throw. Let's switch over and discuss attacking B site. Similar to A, I will give you a useful wall for attacking from each side of B, some useful poison orbs, and some snakebite lineups that you can use in the post plant. If you're attacking B site from the tree side, you can throw a toxic screen that not only splits the site in half and lets your team focus on clearing only the left side of the site near the pocket, but also can help your teammates attacking from B arcade by blocking the B tower angle for them. To throw this wall, I start by lining myself up with the very end of this white panel on the wall. Then, looking up at my minimap, I line up the toxic screen preview so that it passes through the left edge of this box at the end of the canteen and through the very edge of the B tower.
Toxins going up.
When attacking from B tree, you can easily throw a poison orb to block off the B tower angle, making it much safer for your team to push site. To throw this poison orb, start by walking into this corner in front of this small box, just to the left of this bigger box. Then, looking at your HUD, I find the top left of these two tooltips that appear when you take out your poison orb. Using this top left corner as a point of reference, I place it to the bottom right of this white dot on this panel on the wall in front of me, then I jump and throw.
Poison orb emitting.
If instead, you are attacking from the B arcade side, you can throw a super powerful wall that blocks both the generator and canteen angles. To throw this wall, start by walking down near the zip lines on the attacker side bridge and into this corner. Then, looking up at the minimap, line up the toxic screen preview line so it touches both the corner of the generator and this box at the end of the canteen. This wall is perfect for B site, and it covers both the main sight lines from the defender's spawn, allowing your team to focus on the angles on site and in B tower. When pushing from B arcade, you can easily help your team fight for control by using a poison orb to block the tower angle. Start by hugging this left side wall and walking up halfway to the middle of this panel. Then, using your crosshair as a point of reference, find the corner of this building in the sky, and move your crosshair up until it's just above this leaf. Then throw.
Poison orb emitting.
After your team is able to successfully plant the spike, you have a few different options to play in the post plant. If you're holding the B arcade flank from tower, then I typically use this lineup. Standing in this corner of B tower, I use my crosshair as a point of reference and find this section of the building. Then, I move my crosshair a little bit down and throw. Another lineup you can use is if you're holding for the enemy team to push you in tower. Stand against this back wall, and using your crosshair as a point of reference, aim just at the ends of these 3 leaves on the wall. Then, run forward and throw before you get to the corner. If instead, you want to play the post plant from arcade and hold the flank, then you have a very easy lineup you can throw. Standing from behind this corner here, you can easily bounce mollies off this back wall and have them land directly on the spike. Just make sure that you aim in the middle of this set of black looking speakers hanging from the wall. Also, notice the tree in the background. I typically aim about halfway up the tree, somewhere into the middle layer of the leaves, then I run forward and throw. Instead, if you want to play further back and hold the under tunnel and spawn flanks, you can throw a molly from these triple boxes. To throw this molly, I wedge myself into this corner of the boxes. Then, looking at my HUD, I find this line that runs under my health and armor and follow it all the way to the tip where it ends vertically. Using this vertical tip of the line as a point of reference, I place it in the middle of this patch of moss on the roof that runs over the site. Then I jump and throw. Finally, if you're playing post plant from the B stairs or tree area, you have access to a few more easy to learn Snakebite lineups. The first and easiest to throw starts from the bottom of these stairs. Using your crosshair as a point of reference, find this symbol on the wall. Then, move your crosshair over to the left, halfway between this symbol and this patch of moss. Then throw. If instead, you want to play further back, you can stand in this corner behind this box. Then, looking at your HUD, find the bottom right corner of this toxic screen ability icon. Using this as a point of reference, place it just above this section of the leaves on the wall. Then, move the icon to the left, until the left edge of it touches this section of the building. Then throw. Viper is one of my favorite agents to play on defense, because of how effective she can be at holding a choke point and how useful she can be during a retake. Usually, when I'm playing Fracture, I hold the A site for my team. So let's start by breaking down some possible setups that you can use when defending on A, and then go over some tips for retaking B. When defending from A site, you can easily hold the drop angle by placing your poison orb at the top here before the round starts. This poison orb placement is powerful, and makes it very difficult for the attackers to drop into sight when the orb is active. Another way you can use your poison orb on A site is to hold the halls with a one-way. To place this orb, stand in this corner in front of these 3 canisters on the floor. Then, using your crosshair as a point of reference, find this gray vertical line on the wall, and move your crosshair up until it is placed under this lip. Then throw. You can then position yourself behind this wooden box to the left. Or you can move back and play inside the site. This is what the attacker's point of view would be if they decide to push your one lane. When placing a toxic screen to defend A, you can place one that blocks off both the halls and the sand angles. When defending with this wall, you can hold from the A tower. If you get pushed off, you can fall back and hold the tower push from spawn and help your teammate on site from A link. If you have your poison cloud and are rotating into B through the spawn, you can throw it safely from the canteen to block off the B stairs angle. To throw this orb, I walk toward the middle of the canteen. Once I get to this line, I take out the orb and using my crosshair find this section of leaves to the top left of this building. Then I run forward as I throw.
Poison orb emitting.
If you still have your wall and are retaking B site, you can place one like this so that it cuts off both the B arcade and B tower angles. This will help cut down on the angles that your team needs to clear during the retake, and make it much harder for any attacking players hiding in B tower. If you're rotating to B through the spawn, you can help your team with this easy Snakebite lineup for the back pocket of sight. To throw this Snakebite, I find this line on the floor in the spawn, and stand in between the second and third mark on the ground. Then, using my crosshair as a point of reference, I place it slightly to the top right of this red corner section of the building, just so it touches the gray section above it. Then I throw. Thank you so much for watching. If you want to see more content like this, then please consider subscribing to my channel. I post videos every Tuesday and alternate between gameplay videos, highlights, and guides like this. I also stream on Twitch a few times a week at twitch.tv/steepsteps, so make sure to come by and say hi.
Wow.